Thank you for organizing that. This is really actually what love does after a near-death experience. You're giving us this opportunity to share to others, and just that needs to be recognized, and I just appreciate that. I'm just going to say hi to everyone who is here actually online with us. And as you know, my name is Yvonne Sneeden. I actually am from Europe. I grew up in Belgium and in France, somehow in between those two countries. My first language is French. I grew up in a very highly Catholic environment. My parents were traveling a lot, so they didn't have time for the kids. They actually put us in a boarding school, an all-girl boarding school where it was a very high level, but the difference is that we had no love actually, because they were too busy making money and traveling and socializing. So that was my childhood, and later on, I'm just trying to go fast forward because I'd like to share the experience in itself. And then fast forward, I do college, and then I go to, right after college, I go to work to the Royal Thai Embassy in Brussels. And this has helped me meet a lot of people from around the world. It was a diplomatic office where generally you see people from around the world, Europeans, but also I remember going to some New Zealand diplomatic events. So that was my life for about 7 or 8 years, meeting with the biggest people of the world, queens, kings, ambassadors. You know, when you look on TV, all those officials, I was in that crowd actually for about 8 years. However, in my childhood, and then later on, I went to work for the European Union in a lobby, actually, as a lobbyist, a Scandinavian lobby, which was actually the number one lobby in Europe, actually, for the Scandinavian part of it. So all those really successful career, I had this very successful career, but yet in my childhood, I had suffered so much of a lack of love because we were in a strict environment, very protected, very sheltered, but very strict. I don't know if anyone has been raised in a highly in a nun's environment, but it was quite all rules, and I was very bubbly, so I was in trouble very often. So eventually, I go and work at the embassy. I work, and I do not want to believe in anything and become, you know, just a very highly professional, ambitious person. Success and being the first everywhere was really my goal. And there was no spirituality, no other world, no God, no nothing. And that was my life. So later on in life, my ex-husband and I, we became ministers in the church. I came back to Christianity through all kind of events of my life. And we became those ministers, and we ministered in the church. But then after a few years, our couple scrambled and collapsed, actually, and we divorced. So I tried to do a very, very short summary. There are so many stories in between, but this is a very short summary to say, just to explain how I got my near-death experience and why. So this was my life, very busy, ambitious, and then suddenly becoming a Christian and giving my life to Christ, and changing my life, wanting to serve everyone. I became a minister, went to Bible college, preached everywhere throughout Europe. So I traveled prior to that with my career in Asia, in Africa, all over the world. And then through the ministry, now I was also traveling to speak, and in churches, in Christian organization, in conventions. I had a radio channel program. And so that was, I had shifted from the professional to the spiritual. And it was really an amazing time of my life. And I remember what Jeff was saying just earlier, washing the feet of people and of the homeless. That was also what we were doing. We were just, we opened a food bank. We went to see the homeless during in train stations that were just hanging there. We gave food. I really, really wanted to be that person that wanted to change people with hope and love. And so unfortunately, after a while, our couple was taking a toll. So we divorced. And back then in Europe, I don't know how it is in the US, but back then in Europe, you divorce, you are actually you're no longer in the ministry. It's over. Even if you, I was in the ministry and I had a healing gift, so I was just always invited everywhere. But after the marriage collapsed, so we are no longer a unit. We're not recognized as that family couple, that perfect couple that actually represent the image of the happy family. And so my ministry collapsed, my marriage was collapsed, and I decided to go and work back at the European Union, where I knew what to do. And so I went back to work in that field, highly professional. But in my heart, I really, really, my heart was really to give to others and to be really making a difference on a human level. But I'm just thankful that I found a job again, and it was a very good one. But I wanted to shy away from the ministry. I didn't want anything to do with that. I still believe in God, in Christ, but there had been so many hurts and wounds. When your whole community is actually that solid Christian community, and then suddenly you are actually show up with a finger because you are divorced. So your paradigm changed, and you start to understand basically what is really important. So I was just probably wounded by what happened to me, so I just didn't want anything to do with that. But however, a few months later, I met an American man, and he was a Christian man, and was the most amazing person. And we decided to move to the US. And when I arrived to the US, he changed. He was like Mr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. When we arrived in the US, we had a fantastic wedding. We rented the Museum of Arts of Raleigh, where I live. We were going to the church where all the high people here in town goes, and it was just a continuation. But the day of the wedding, he changed. The night of the wedding, it was another person. It was Mr. Hyde and Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. And so it became really, I felt trapped. I felt that I had moved all my life because, it took a year and a half for me to decide. My life was over there. I had family, friends, a solid support. And then suddenly I was in the US, and I thought we were going to have that amazing story. And it changed. It was actually not an amazing story. It was a hellish story. And he was very abusive and terrible. So I made my way out of the marriage. His entire family was amazing. He had 3 sisters, he had a mother, a father, and they helped me out of that marriage. So to show you, I don't want to say anything bad. Maybe he wasn't used to my culture. I don't know what happened to his life, that it didn't fit, it didn't match, but it made me realize I was alone in the country. I had a child. I was alone in the country, that I had to restart everything. I didn't know anything. The brands of products, I would spend hours in front of one product at the grocery store wondering which one is the good one. So everything, healthcare, bank system, everything was completely different. And so I had to find a job again, which I did. I found a job in public diplomacy. I knew my worth professionally. As far as relationship, I wasn't very successful, but I knew my worth professionally. So I went back here in town, and I found another job that was a continuation of what I was doing in Europe. And so, which my ex-husband, that American husband I was in, was extremely upset that I had found something that was actually respectable. He thought with my accent, I would never be able to work anywhere. So I found a job. I'm out of the marriage, fortunately. It wasn't working at all. My daughter and I are safe. The family is wonderful. And so I have to work to make a new living in a new country. And I work day and night to ensure that my daughter has a bright future. And after the public diplomacy job, I found a job in an IT company because I didn't want to travel that much. And in public diplomacy, you have to do a lot of events, evenings, cocktails, meet with, you have all those official meetings. And I wanted to raise my child as a single mother and be there for her. So I decided to shift career and then work. And then fortunately, I found a great job as a global, in an IT company. So it was really, and the amazing thing with that job is that I can work from home. So I could raise my child and work, but it was still, I had experienced so many emotional traumas with time that actually I developed some arrhythmia. And my heart was starting to race and race at night, in the evening. As soon as I was relaxing in the evening, that heart was racing. And at some point, I decided to go to a cardiologist, and he actually gave me a monitor to put a few days, and then when I went back, he told me, Yvonne, you are actually developing arrhythmia. You have all the symptoms, and you have to be very careful. He said, what do you do for fun, for joy, for entertainment, for yourself? And I look at him as if he was speaking an alien language. I said, honestly, not much. I work for my daughter. I have a career which requires a lot of time. Basically, and he said to me, Yvonne, you have to do something for joy, for your, something for yourself, because the heart, whatever heart issues are related a lot of time to real heart problem and emotional problems. So you need to compensate all the duties you have with fun things to do. So he said, because otherwise you're going straight to the heart attack. So I said, okay, I will try, which was not easy. But so he gave me some medication. He said, take those medications whenever you have a crisis. You see your heart is racing, and then you can take this medication to slow down the race, the beat, and just bring it back to a normal pace. So here I am taking those medications whenever I felt I had a crisis, and I don't know what. I really don't know, Tricia, what I was thinking, but sometimes when I didn't want to have a crisis, because I said, oh, this evening I want to have a peaceful evening, I want to be able to read a book, relax, and not have that, because it would last a long time, and it was really quite severe. And I said, and I don't know what I was thinking. I said, well, I don't want to have those type of beats, or racing beats tonight. So I will take a medication to make sure I don't get it. But those medications are slowing down your heartbeat, and I didn't realize that actually it was slowing it even lower, even when my heart was racing normally, was actually beating normally. So that's what happened, and later on, the anesthesiologist here at Duke confirmed that the 2 episodes I had were due to those medication I was having. So the first one, so I've taken my medication, and she even said that I was very fortunate to still be alive, that many of her patients that take that specific medication, which I will not mention, I don't want to have any problem with any companies, but those specific medication can cause sleep apnea and heart stop if you are not careful with it, and if the dosage is not the right one. So she said it's probably a combination of a higher dosage that you should have had, and taking it when you don't have a crisis. So here I have the first episode I had two near-death experience the same month. So I'm getting ready to go to bed. I go in my bed, I lay there, I just do that. And as soon as I lay my head on my pillow, I looked at my body. I was out of my body. And I look at the feet of my bed, and there I see two huge beings of light, and with a white long robe, and they were very, for everyone who had a near-death experience, they know what I'm talking about, but they were extremely brilliant, emanating light. And they look at me telepathically. They told me, Yvonne, it's time to go. We're going, we're leaving, you're going home, we're leaving. And I just said, yes, okay. It's when you're outside of your body and it's time to go home, you really have no fear. Nothing seems out of the norm. If you were here on earth and somebody say leave, I would never leave. I had my child to raise. I loved her dearly, more than myself, than my life. And there was no question I was going to leave. But once you're outside of your body and you're in that spirit form, it's almost like you're reconnecting with that other dimension, and you're disconnected from this dimension, and the memories are fading away as well. You're actually very focused on what's to come ahead and not what's behind. The memories are fading away. So I said, okay, I'm coming with you. And they were both each on my side. I was in the middle, and in a split of a second, we really literally in 1 second, we crossed the entire universe, and we arrived in that realm where everything was completely illuminated. And everything was illuminated, the structures, the buildings, the floor, everything you see, and it was illuminated from inside out. Everything was reflecting light. And when I arrived there were about 25 people, beings of light. And they were there so excited to see me. They said, she's here, she's back, she's here. And when I arrived, I saw actually that this was my family. I could really feel inside myself that this was, I didn't recognize any one of them, but I knew them. I knew it was my family, actually. And they were saying, she's back. So I went and hugged everyone. I felt that I was home. I was finally home. And they all were, it's like you've been sent in another country. And whatever you have experienced in that country was so hard and so difficult, and you had good things that you experienced, but you experienced some very hard and challenging things. You learned a lot of things through that, and you gained that wisdom, but it was a very weary adventure. And then suddenly, and you can never leave that country, and then suddenly we're telling you, this is your passport, you're going home. And then when you arrive, you have all that family that's there waiting for you and embracing you, and you're so weary. And you arrive home, and everybody say, you're home, you're safe here now. And that's really the feeling I had. I had that feeling that I was finally home, and I was so happy. I looked back and I said, thinking of everything I had experienced on earth, and I said, but what was that horrible nightmare? What was that horrible nightmare? So everybody was catching up. We were just talking. There was it was extremely vibrant. There was no dull moment. Everybody was happy. Everybody was serving one another. It reminded me what Jeff was saying with washing the feet. Everybody was serving one. Everybody was doing that to each other. Everybody was kind to each other. Everybody was respectful, honoring one another. There was no unhealthy competition between one another. There was no nothing negative. Everything was love and kindness and respect. There was no ego involved, wanting to be better than the other. It was just pure love and family and my clan. It was my clan. Unfortunately, one of the lady out of that clan, one of the being of light, which is a lady, female being of light, she came and she put her hands on my face. And she said, "Oh, Yvonne," she said, "your experience on planet Earth is such a difficult one." And I said, "Yeah." I said, "It is. It's been a challenge. It's really difficult." And she said, "But we understand. No worry. Everything was happening very fast telepathically." And she said, "Don't worry. You'll be back. But you have to go back now, quickly, before your body down on Earth will not be able to reintegrate your spirit. It's not going to be functional anymore. So you quickly have to go back." And when she said that, those two beings that had dropped me there were back. And as we had come to that place, I was the same way in between the two of them, and we went back on Earth, and that was it. And I felt really myself reintegrating my body, and that was to me an amazing experience, because I had felt home and I had felt my family. And then the days went by, and somehow I still had a feeling I was going to die. I felt that I was going to die, and there was no it's almost like that first trip, they were trying to encourage me or something, but when I came back, I really felt that I was disconnecting with this world, that I was done with this world, just like you have a battery and the battery is ending, and then you can't function anymore. That's how I felt. There was absolutely no feeling of suicidal feeling or anything to go back, but I felt that my time was up on Earth. I did feel that my time was totally up, and it was time for me to go home. And I just had that deep conviction in me. I then called my sister in Europe, and I told her that I was going to die. And I told her, "But don't you worry, it's all fine. It's all fine. I'm going to be fine." And I remember always putting some nice clothes during the day and some beautiful gowns or any pajama at night in case somebody would find me dead. I mean, when you know you're going to die, you think of things you would never think in normal time. So that I would still be decent if somebody was finding me. So one day I was sitting I was laying on the sofa in the living room, and I had taken my medication again. And here I am reading that book, and suddenly I did feel all of my organs shutting down, shutting down. Everything was shutting down. And at the same time, I slipped out of my body. One moment I was in my body. The other moment I was in the light. I didn't feel any pain. Oftentimes, I know we have people that never had an ND that are listening. Oftentimes, when you have a strong impact, you're already out of the body. Sometimes, not everybody. For me, that's what happened. As all my organs were shutting down, at the same time, I was translating instantly into the light. There was no tunnel, and I don't think everyone has a tunnel. I heard it's about 15 or 20% of people that experience a tunnel. We have different ways to get on the other side or in the other world. We have different ways. We can just go through through the universe. We can just be translated. There's a tunnel, there's a light, there's all kind of ways that people go there. For me, I was just suddenly translated in a light. And in that light, it was all, I felt that I was carried by that light. I was held by that light, which was all knowing, all loving, and it was all that is. It's all that is. I was just basking in that beautiful light, and that light was actually just inundating myself, my being, my spirit, everything I was, and it was giving me joy. I felt zero worry. I was worry-free. There was no moment of fear or anxiety. Everything that was actually a feeling of negativity, anything that was actually negative or stressful, was completely non-existent. I was just basking in that light, and I felt elevated to a spiritual level of the highest level of joy, of happiness. I was just floating in that light. It was just the highest level of happiness anyone could ever experience. I've never ever experienced that here in my life. The happiest joy I've ever experienced here was probably 1,000 times less than anything we experience when we're in that light. And I know I was part of that all-knowing, that all-loving. I was home. Really, this time I was really home. The other place that I was in, I almost feel that it was a transition place where I was met to help me go on with this journey. But this place was definitely home. It was the light. There was nothing that this physical universe could even comprehend. And there I was in that state with that all living light, and feeling home and feeling at peace and joyful. When suddenly, coming from a distance, I saw that being of light coming towards me. And that being of light was totally translucent. The being had the outline of a human, but the extremities of the legs and the arms were like flame of fire, but it was flame of light. It was a light, and his face was totally like a circle, and he was just, and that being was hovering and coming towards me. It was just coming towards me, and I could not wait to have that being just close to me, and that emotion of love and joy was increasing, and that being was just hovering, and then it came and whirling around me like that, and all around, and it was all energy, and that being finally embraced me, and when it embraced me, I was instantly downloaded. This is Jesus. And when I was downloaded that, at the same time as I had that message of, this is Jesus. And some people tell me, well, how do you know it's Jesus? You know, you may think it was Jesus, but because it's what you want to believe. You know, I know that this is a big theory that we have in the spiritual world, that we are actually seeing what we want to see. If we want to see Buddha, if we want to see Jesus, if we want to be, you will see whatever you want. And I don't buy that personally, because if I see somebody I've known here on earth, and then I see that person on the other side, I know that energy of that person is that energy. It's not another energy. It's not, if it was Jane, it's not going to be Helen or somebody else. I know it's Jane. And when Jesus hugged me and embraced me all together, it embraced me, it engulfed me. And I knew it was Jesus. I had no doubt. In heaven, if you doubt, you don't have even a doubt there, because that is even a stressful emotion. And there is no stressful emotion. Everything is known. Everything solid, everything is factual, everything is certain. It's peaceful. And so eventually, when Jesus was actually embracing me, I felt instant love, instant compassion, instant goodness, instant um, instant care, instant tenderness. And he was looking at me like I was the most amazing things it had never seen. And I have to say that Jesus had the two energy in one unit, the female and the male energy, the father and the mother energy in one unit. And I've never felt that in my entire life. That was the only time. It was feminine and masculine at the same time. It was a mother and a father at the same time. It was embracing me. I felt safe, I felt loved, I felt cherished. I felt that nothing could ever happen to me, ever. And it was just englobing me in its love. And I felt that I was the unique in the entire universe. And that's how much I was loved. And he was just looking at me with care and love and very delicate kindness and delicate care. And yet that's how we're all loved. On the other side, we are all loved with that care, with that love, with that uniqueness. We're all feeling unique and cherished and cheered. And at that moment, Jesus said to me, telepathically, there was a knowing that I had to go back on earth. There was that knowing. See, I do think it's faster than telepathy, because telepathy is somebody's telling you something, you hear what he says, you respond. This was instant. It was knowing. It was from knowing to knowing. Everything was a knowing. As soon as I thought something, I knew already that's what he wanted. It was from knowing to knowing. It was much faster. And I knew, so I had that just thing. So I started to ask questions about coming back on earth. He wanted me a few questions about what to do on earth. And I had a boyfriend back then that I didn't know whether yes or no. We had to stay together. It wasn't working at all. And I asked that one of the questions was that one. And when I asked that question, he shifted in the air. And he became brighter and bigger, and he opened up that big screen, which was a very even brighter screen. So the whole scene is happening in a very bright environment, and yet Jesus is brighter, and then that screen is so bright, and that screen comes up, and there is a yes and a no, just like when you have some survey, and you have a yes and a no, that those square. And he actually ticked the no. And he said, and everything was happening simultaneously, and that's the beauty of heaven. You can have 10 conversations in one, and you understand everything. So while he was showing my saying no, he was showing me at the same time the love for I would call him Steve. The love for Steve on earth was intact, was the same as mine. We all were love. We were all one in that love, and there was no judgment. But I had to say no to that. And I asked, why is Steve always so mean on earth with me? I mean, his words are so hard and so mean. And Jesus said to me, very factually, with no judgment, he said to me, it's because Steve has decided to live his life on earth with his mind and his intellect in priority. You have decided to live your life on earth with your heart. And it was not that I was better than Steve because I wanted to live it with my heart. It's just a different approach, a different journey, a different path. And it was never going to work because we would always clash. We would never see eye to eye. We would have a fight, for example. He would use his mind and just leash out so that I would be hurt. And when you walk with your heart, you actually talk with kindness back. So after that scene, there's a few other questions I asked. I also asked Jesus, and that's very important. I asked Jesus, why are people on earth racist? Because I'm obviously a minority. So I asked Jesus, why are they, just, out of curiosity, I said, why people, and in general, because some people are, if you go to some all one race, the other race is always ostracized. I've traveled the world. I've been in Asia, Africa, Europe, Latin America, the US, Canada. I've been everywhere. And I've noticed that there's always that group that's ostracized, that group that actually is persecuted everywhere. So I was just in general asking Jesus, why are all those people so racist? Where did it come from? And Jesus said, an answer that I would never have thought of. And Jesus said, it's because of their self, and it was without judgment. Jesus said, very factual, it's because of their self-centeredness. And it's not, it means, let's say that with love. It was said with love. It's just said because we all on earth want to associate with people that remind us of us. Our ego, which we use on earth to grow spiritually, take too much of a space in our journey on earth. So we just want people that remind us of us again, that ego, me, and it's not in a mean way, it's become part of us, it's just automatic. And then if it's not like us, we feel very uncomfortable. So that was, but the root was, we wanted something that mirror who we are. And that's what he was telling. And it was very interesting because I would never have come with that answer. I would have said pain, bringing, anger, traumas, so all kind of culture. But I would never have said that was the root of it. So, and then there were all kind of other questions. But then at some point we proceeded out of the light. And as we proceeded out of the light, Jesus came to my left, took a more consistent body, looked more physical type of body. And then he was to my left, and we both proceeded towards outside the light. And I'm getting extremely excited. I see in front of me that crystal city, the celestial city. It's all brilliant, the city of light. And I'm so excited to walk there, and Jesus is by my side. And I'm just pacing to just quickly get it, because I know it's home. I know this is home. And as I paced there, I did feel that some people were coming to my right. So I turned around, and I saw all those children angels that were also proceeding towards that crystal city or celestial city. And everything in that realm that I went to or heaven or any heavenly realm, is extremely vibrant. Everybody's excited. It's not just soft and dull. It's extremely, our sensorial capability are at the highest level. So everything is exciting, and everything is just vibrant. And so I saw those beings coming, young beings, or angel beings, going towards that city as well. And then they turned around and they looked at me. And they saw that I wasn't a big deal. And then they saw Jesus, and they turned and they ran into his arms, and he took them all into his arms. There were about a dozen. And at some point Jesus said, just go back to your teachers. This, with a lot of love and inclusivity at the same time. This is Yvonne's moment. And so when they went back, I looked back and I saw magnificent beings of light, women beings of light, looking like angels. And they look at me with that amazing love and kindness, and they were brilliant. They were emanating the same kindness, the same love. And they even had a reverential attitude. And it's not, on that realm that I visited, that I call heaven, everybody has that reverential attitude towards the other. We all are respecting respecting and honoring one another 100% of the time. It is home. And when they were looking at me, they said, Yvonne, you're home. You're safe here. We will never harm you. This is home. This is love. This is home for you. And almost welcoming me and saying, there's never going to be anything done to you here. And at that moment, after that, suddenly I said to Jesus, I do not want to go home. I don't want to go back on earth. I do not want to go back. I'm really home here. This is home for me. This is really home. This world there down on earth, planet earth, is actually a mean world, a lot of violence. There are many people that are selfish and think of, I don't feel the love that I feel here. I cannot relate to that world. I want to be home. I want to be here. And when I said that, instead of saying, okay, you can stay here, Jesus actually shifted in the air and became that huge huge being of light that took at least, I would say, half a mile high, and that scene all disappeared. We were basically in a black velvety environment. I always say it's like the universe without stars. We were in that velvety environment, and he just expanded into that huge hologram-like being, and it was just his being was streaks of lights and of energies, and he was just, and then he looked down like that at me with that immense power and of love, and concern, and he said, Yvonne, I will fill you with my strength. I will fill you with my energy of life. Because that's what I probably needed to go back. I didn't want to go back. I had said to Jesus prior to that I didn't want to go back because my body was completely broken. I had tried to negotiate everything I could to stay in that world. I said, that body is broken. There's no way I can get back there. So there was that, and I said, and if you bring me back there to live, I will be beyond exhaustion. I don't think I can do it. So that's why he probably said, I will give you my strength and my energy of life. And then he gave me that amazing input of sparkling energy and liquid sparkling energy in my whole beings. And after that, he said, after that moment, which is much longer, but I'm trying to summarize, he said to me, Yvonne, I do love everyone. And that Jesus that I'm talking about is really not a Jesus that's human, it's confined in a box and full of prejudice, full of condemnation, full of hatred. That Jesus, that Christ was universal, was love itself, was kindness itself. There was no condemnation, no judgment. And he said, Yvonne, I love everyone on earth. I only have love. I only have love for everyone on earth. I love my babies. And Christ was light at the same time. It was that pure energy. And he said, I'll show you how. So Christ took me, because I was just, while he was saying that, I was thinking, well, yeah, you Christ, you went on earth to show love, to teach God's love. So I understand that you love everyone. And so he said to me, I will show you how. And when Jesus said that, when Christ said that, he mixed I always say, in blend his heart with my heart, but it's basically both of our essence of existence that he blended us into one unit. We were one unit, we were one. The love was one, and he made me experience what pure heavenly love is for everything and for humanity. And that is the portion I always say each time in my whenever I share that I will never be able to share in words, because it was joy, it was love, it was goodness, billions of energy, of lights, of kindness. I just don't know how to explain. I was one with the light, one with God, one with universe, one with everything, and billions of light. And then I came back on earth, and it changed me completely. I realized that we are all, every individual person is actually worth loving. That's what I took from that experience, is that whereas I don't want to say that I'm in a religion, I came back and my box was expanded. I'm a Christ follower in the sense that I'm a love follower, but I'm open to all my friends that had other near-death experiences, they experienced other things. I'm embracing it all because it's all right, it's all good, it's all true. And that love, that I feel that what has changed me when I come on earth is that I feel that every human on earth is really simply an opportunity to love. It's an opportunity to love, an opportunity to grow, an opportunity to experience life itself, the gift we have all received. So that's my experience. I don't know if you have questions.
Oh, yes, I actually do, before we get to
I have
questions. No.
After my near-death experience, I've had other travels and journey in other worlds, but that's another story.
Yeah, so
that's another story.
I loved how you talked about it was like another country, and how you left the difficult country. What a beautiful metaphor to use when traveling there. Yeah, it's just like all the worries were taken away. Just so lovely. So I did have to say that, but there are some Q&A questions in the little box below.
Okay.
I don't know if you want to read them, but if you see that Q&A, Andy Parks has 2 questions, and if you want to pick one or both of those, that would be awesome if you could respond to one of those.
Okay, thank you, Andy, actually, for your kind words here. So you say, what do you think the meaning of the Bible is when Jesus said, I'm the way, the truth, and the light. No one gets to the Father except through me. And, that's his question. He thinks about that because there are other NDEs, other religion and transcendent. So for me, and I'm just going to speak for myself. I'm not speaking for anyone else. That's how I understand it. And if it resonates with you, I'm really happy. If it doesn't, I'm sorry. For me, that's, the Christian, the foundation of Christianity is on Jesus saying, I'm the light, the truth, and that's the foundation. When I saw Jesus, you see, to me, Jesus is the light, but God is light, and Christ is light, and He is truth. He is the way. But another person will have have the lights, or will see other thing, and that will be their way. I cannot speak for other people. For me, I had another experience with Jesus where when he was in the air, he was not, you have to know that Jesus is not a Jesus that's a human, it's a spirit. Maybe when he came on earth, he took the name of Jesus or something, but maybe for me, it was a being of light that was actually all knowing and all loving and all encompassing, that knew everything and was pulsating creation. As he was communicating with me, he was creating universe, creating lives, creating simultaneously. So for me, that was my way to go to God and my truth and my life. And for me, Jesus is love. Okay, he's pure love. So if he says I'm the way and the light, it's because he's pure, honest love. And love is the way and the light and the truth and the door. love is the way. And that's how I understand it. And even there's a scripture in the Bible that says, if you have love, God is with you. If you don't have love, God is not with you. So it means that Christ is that love to me. So you can interpret it in that way too, that if Christ is love, pure love, so love is the truth and the door and the light. Love is the way to everything we do on earth. We learn it's who we will be in heaven. It's the energy of love. That's how I interpret that, and that's how, you can say, well, I accept Jesus in my heart as my Savior and Lord, and now I'm a Christian. And then you do lots of things every day to everyone. You belittle people on a daily life. You just judge. You prejudice. You do all kinds of things. Well, this is not an aspect of love. Love is the door, the way, and the truth to me. That's how I experience it. I hope you understand. I have told you that that's
yes,
one.
Yes, I loved your answer, and I loved your talk so much. It was just beautiful, and there's so much that I wanted to say, and I'll just paraphrase part of Andy's second question because I kind of want to blend it to my own. But I loved how you described the telepathy, but also how Jesus said things in a non-judgmental way that were matter of fact. And that made so much sense to me. Things were simple, but layered with profound love when I was on that other side. And that idea of, someone being from their heart and their head, Andy was asking, like, well, is that here to teach us something about getting along with one another? But it is kind of an incongruity sometimes in a close relationship. I can understand that. I'll just chime in. Like, I have an ex-husband, and I was deleting files from my computer, and I saw the two of us, and I'm like over here just joyful and happy, and he's like on his phone, just angry the whole time, thinking about things. And I was like, how did we even blend? It's the weirdest thing. But yes, different ways of thinking and different personality types. I think maybe part of the lesson maybe is to not be judgmental, but to set other people free too. Like maybe that was my lesson. I don't know if that was yours, but.
Yeah, and I'm so excited to talk to you, Tricia, and I hope we meet in person again in Seattle, and we have more time to share those moments. I think we have a lot to share together.
Yes.
But I agree 100% with you, and I would think maybe we can learn, all of us together, to if you function with the mind and with the heart, but like you said, in the personal relationship, that might be more of a challenge, and I'm not sure if we have to be in that.
Yeah. Exactly. But I just loved your talk, and there's so much to it, and you didn't even get to many of the after effects, but your experience was so lovely and so deep and so beautiful. So there might be one more question. How is your heart now? Someone asked.
Yes, so the beauty of it all is that when I came back, I was totally healed. I never had any